As the gullible creatures that we are, human beings are easily deceived. This isn't always a bad thing though, as it enables the narrative device known as the plot twist. When used well, plot twists are an excellent way to make a story memorable, but unfortunately, in what amounts to a plot twist, sometimes they don't land as intended. Though plot twists are used in pretty much all forms of narrative, the interactive nature of video games mean that they can actually be used more efficiently. However, this also increases the risk involved, because when a video game plot twist goes wrong, invested players feel all the more let down, and when executed poorly, some video game plot twists simply feel daft, really. Even though good plot twists are generally memorable, the most ridiculous ones are truly unforgettable. In other words, trying to subvert expectations sometimes backfires horribly, leading to downright laughable plot developments that do the opposite of what they were supposed to. Fair warning, this list will be filled with disappointing spoilers. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are the 10 silliest plot twists in video game history. Number 10. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Templar Lucy. As well as its exciting historical settings and stories, the Assassin's Creed series also does its best to root proceedings in the present day. The first 5 games in the franchise follow Desmond Miles, a bartender drafted into the ancient war between assassins and Templars thanks to a handy cache of valuable genetic memories. At the end of the first game, Desmond is rescued from the Templar-run Abstergo by Lucy, an undercover assassin. However, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood changes everything with an entirely unnecessary plot twist. After spending several games on the run with Lucy and a small team of assassins, Desmond finally recovers the powerful artifact they've been searching for, but upon recovering it, he learns that Lucy has been a double agent all along and unceremoniously kills her. Perhaps the silliest part of the twist is that the previous games barely even hinted at the possibility, and Lucy had been portrayed as a generally reliable ally. Picking it apart logically, it means that Lucy was a Templar posing as an assassin who had been posing as a Templar, which is maybe just a little too much of a stretch. Given the already convoluted nature of Assassin's Creed's modern story and the fact that it had always been the least exciting part of the franchise, this reveal just felt ridiculous. Number 9. Fallout 4, Sean is old. In the post-apocalyptic wasteland of the Fallout games, pretty much anything goes. With the remnant of society living alongside violent supermutants and radioactive wildlife, strange occurrences are basically the norm. This lends most of Fallout's stories an air of the unexpected, and as a result, the franchise is filled with weird and wonderful plot twists. Fallout 4's story follows the sole survivor, a pre-war soldier who awakens from cryogenic stasis after witnessing raiders kidnap their son Sean. Setting off across the wasteland to find him, it's clear from the start that the likelihood that he survived is slim. However, against the odds, the sole survivor finds him, but he's an old man who lived a full life while his parents were frozen underground. What makes this one so silly is that Fallout 4 repeatedly insists that Sean must still be a child, in spite of the fact that the player was refrozen after the kidnapping. Even after 200 years pass in the blink of an eye, the sole survivor believes that no more than a few years could have gone by since their son was taken. It's a notion that isn't backed up by any actual evidence and defies even the most basic logic. Somehow, this one managed to be both ludicrous and predictable all at once. Number 8. Resident Evil Village. Ethan is dead. Resident Evil Village picks up the story of Ethan Winters 3 years after his ordeal with the Baker family in Resident Evil 7. After his wife is murdered and he's kidnapped along with his infant daughter, Ethan ends up in a sinister village hounded by Lycans. However, the end of the game reveals a baffling twist in Ethan's story. He's been dead all along. It's a classic groan inducer for a reason. It truly is a twist that has no place out of childish campfire stories and The Sixth Sense. Even so, Resident Evil Village asserts that Ethan was actually killed at the beginning of Resident Evil 7 and that for 2 full games the player has been controlling a walking corpse. Apparently, shortly after Ethan was introduced, Jack Baker killed him and his body was reanimated by the mold. Both Ethan and the players controlling him were completely oblivious to the fact that he had been a fungal zombie all along. It's one of those twists that feel a little forced and incredibly cliched, attempting to rewrite the previous game's story with one shocking revelation. Admittedly, it does sort of follow the utterly bat-plops logic of the Resident Evil franchise, but it feels far more dumb than fun. Number 7. Fable 3, Logan Isn't Evil. Though the Fable games are mostly known for their uniquely flatulent sense of humor, the third title in the franchise also boasts an often forgotten, ill-conceived twist. Fable 3's protagonist is the royal hero, the younger sibling of ruling monarch King Logan. Unfortunately, Logan is a royal pain in the crown jewels and starts the game by performing needless executions on innocent people. After spending the first part of the game working to dethrone Logan, the player discovers that his tyranny is just a coping mechanism. It turns out that Logan had discovered a magical evil coming to kill kill his subjects, so he nobly decided to make their lives as miserable as possible in order to prepare. Fable 3 then rapidly shifts focus away from Logan and instead follows the hero as they protect their kingdom. The plot twist comes off as ridiculous for a number of reasons, the biggest of which being that Logan's oppressive behavior was completely unjustifiable in the first place. By inserting a twist that encourages players to sympathize with a man responsible for countless needless deaths and economic devastation, Fable 3 pushes its story past the confines of plausibility. It's the sort of misguided twist that no one wanted or appreciated, and it really didn't add anything to the story whatsoever. Number 6. Infamous. Kessler is future Cole. Infamous, or Infamous if you want to get weirdly stylized about this, follows superpowered conduit Cole McGrath after he is accused of staging a terrorist attack in the fictional Empire City. While trying to clear his name, he investigates a mysterious superpowered group called the First Sons who he believes are actually responsible. That group is led by the enigmatic Kessler, who serves as the game's main antagonist. After chasing Kessler around Empire Bay and failing to prevent various calamities, Cole finally defeats the villain, but before dying, Kessler reveals the game's big twist. He is actually a version of Cole who traveled back in time from an alternate future to prepare his past self for the events that led to the death of his family. Putting aside the fact that Cole and Kessler are voiced by completely different people, it wasn't exactly hard to discern given that the pair had an identical set of powers. Regardless of whether the player suspected that Kessler was Cole all along, the twist was needlessly complex in order to mask its convenience, and that's ultimately what makes it seem so utterly laughable. The paradoxes involved are enough to make any sci-fi fan seethe with rage, making Infamous's big twist decidedly less intelligent than it seemingly wanted to be. Number 5. Heavy Rain. Scott Shelby is the origami killer. Back in 2010, David Cage's interactive movies with added QuickTime events were still considered a big deal. Heavy Rain was highly praised for its branching narrative involving a father attempting to rescue his kidnapped son from a serial murderer known as the Origami Killer, whilst others attempt to uncover the criminal's identity. Though the story itself remains fairly well respected, Heavy Rain's twist is undoubtedly a silly one. Heavy Rain follows 4 playable protagonists: frantic father Ethan Mars, FBI profiler Norman Jayden, journalist Madison Page, and private investigator Scott Shelby. After players spend hours controlling each character in turns, it emerges that Scott Shelby is the origami killer after all. Heavy Rain reveals that he was only investigating himself in order to recover and destroy evidence, and depending on the player's choices and actions, he may or may not escape with his freedom. Shelby being the killer is ridiculous, not least because it creates a handful of plot holes. What's more, forcing players to essentially waste time acting out the killer's pantomime as he investigates his own crimes is especially tasteless and takes the sting out of what would otherwise have been a far more satisfying reveal. Number 4. Final Fantasy VIII. Everyone has amnesia. The Final Fantasy series is known for its complex stories, and Final Fantasy VIII is no exception. It follows a group of mercenaries who are drafted into a magical war to protect their homeland from a powerful sorceress. As is often the case with Final Fantasy titles, there are many twists and turns in the tale, but the game's big reveal was the one that left most players a little nonplussed. Squall Leonhardt and his band of soldiers learn that the summoned creatures called Guardian Forces they've been using in battle have actually given them that old plot twist favorite, amnesia. Though they can't remember it, 4 of the 6 main characters actually grew up in the same orphanage. It's the sort of plot twist that feels shoehorned in just to confuse things even more. Ignoring the fact that its explanation relies on the use of a staggering amount of nonsensical phrases, it still feels ultimately pointless. There's really no need for players to concern themselves with where these characters grew up or whether their enemies are intact, because there's a literal war that they still need to fight. Not only was Final Fantasy VIII's twist silly, but it was completely unnecessary. Number 3. God of War 3. Hope is the key. For those not in the know, the God of War series follows the barbaric Kratos as he engages in multiple violent crusades against the gods, and God of War 3 tells the story of Kratos' quest for revenge against Zeus, who also happens to be his father. In order to kill Daddy Dearest, Kratos needs the power contained within Pandora's box and spends most of the game searching for it. God of War 3's big twist predictably comes along just as Kratos finally unlocks the power of Pandora's box. After jumping through all manner of Greek hoops to find and open it, Kratos discovers that the box contains nothing at all. However, it does trigger a timely vision that reveals hope is the key to killing the literal daddy of the gods. Oh. Yes, in a twist that feels lifted from a Disney movie, it turns out that Kratos had the power inside him all along. As much as the twist is loosely based on the actual story of Pandora from Greek mythology, it still feels particularly anticlimactic. In a franchise surrounding one of the most bloodthirsty characters ever created, making the abstract concept of hope the ultimate weapon was an idea that, in hindsight, seems beyond stupid. Number 2. Hitman 3, Diana betrays Agent 47. Hitman 3 did more than just continue the successful resurgence of the franchise, it served up an absolute stonker of a silly twist too. After Agent 47 and his longtime handler Diana defected from the ICA in Hitman 2, they began working for a rogue mercenary in order to continue their careers as contract killers. As much as their commitment to their work is commendable, it puts them on the hunt for Arthur Edwards, the leader of the shadowy organization responsible for turning them into killers in the first place. After Edwards reveals to Diana that Agent 47 was the one who killed her parents, she agrees to betray her shiny-headed associate. She poisons him and in a shocking twist seems to become Hitman 3's antagonist. That is, until she doesn't. 47 hallucinates a vision explaining that Diana didn't betray him and that it was a means of getting him closer to Edwards all along. The pair of contract killers are able to reconcile and continue their work happily ever after. The double-cross fake-out is the sort of twist that feels distinctly cheap, especially when it's immediately explained away. Hitman 3 does a 180 on its plot twist so fast that even 47's barcoded neck probably ended up with whiplash. Number 1. Bionic Commando. Wife equals arm. 2009's Bionic Commando both serves as a sequel to the 1998 original and borrows story elements from the remake made just 1 year before. Not only is its very existence pretty confusing, but it also boasts a twist that makes its narrative look clever by comparison. The game follows Major Nathan "Rad" Spencer, the titular Bionic Commando, as he searches for his missing wife with the help of his super-powered bionic arm. After an awful lot of Bionic Commandoing, Spencer learns that his wife has been with him all along, inside his arm. Apparently, bionics need to sync with their hosts on an emotional level, so his wife's consciousness was installed into his metal appendage. It's clearly intended to be a shocking revelation, but in reality it's far too ridiculous to be anything but hilariously unhinged. It's hard to decide what's funnier, Spencer's wife being inside his arm, or the fact that Bionic Commando tried in earnest to make players feel something about a character nicknamed Major Rad. It's the sort of plot twist that not only comes off as ridiculous, but doesn't seem to have been thought about for any longer than a few seconds. Bionic Commando tried so hard to hurt its players emotionally, but in the end, it felt pretty... You ready? Here we go, we've been building to this the entire list. Armless. Oh, okay, you can go now.